Step out of the car, now!
Hands where I can see them.
Officer, I haven't done anything wrong. Why are you escalating this?
Don't argue with me, I run this street.
You're violating my rights, and this is all being recorded.
The aggressive commands shattered the humid silence of the Louisiana night. Red and blue strobe lights from the patrol cruiser bounced off the wet asphalt of Claiborne Avenue, casting chaotic shadows against the peeling paint of the nearby shotgun houses. Inside the battered silver sedan, a 56-year-old black man sat with his hands gripping the steering wheel at 10 and 2. He wore a faded mechanic's cap, a frayed medical mask, and a grease-stained t-shirt. Officer Kyle Vanner, a 28-year-old patrolman with a reputation for high arrest numbers and a short fuse, approached the vehicle. His hand hovered ominously near his service weapon. He saw a tired older black man in a beat-up car in a gentrifying neighborhood. He saw an easy target. He saw a statistic. What Officer Vanner did not see, and what he could not possibly know, was that he was about to make the single most catastrophic error of his life. He was not arresting a mechanic. He was not arresting a criminal. He was arresting Superintendent Marcus Thorne, the highest-ranking police official in New Orleans, a man who had spent 3 decades climbing from the patrol beat to the executive suite. The trap had been baited. The cameras were rolling, and Officer Vanner had walked right into the kill zone. Before we unravel the events that destroyed a corrupt career and exposed a systemic rot, I have a question for you. Where are you tuning in from? Let us know your city or state in the comments. And if you believe in justice and accountability, make sure you are subscribed to this channel. You are going to want to hear how this ends. Marcus Thorne had been the superintendent of the New Orleans Police Department for nearly 6 years. He was a man built of iron discipline and quiet intellect. He had joined the force in the late 90s, back when the department was notorious for corruption, and he had kept his hands clean every single day. He had worked homicide, narcotics, and internal affairs before taking the top job. He believed in the badge. He believed that police work was a noble calling, a shield for the vulnerable. But for the last 8 months, a cancer had been growing in the 6th District. Thorne's desk was buried under piles of civilian complaints. The narrative was always the same. Black and Latino men were being pulled over for phantom traffic violations. Their cars were being tossed. Cash was going missing. Whatever probable cause, the officers claimed, was always vague. A smell of marijuana that no one else could smell, a furtive movement that the body cameras never quite captured clearly. One name appeared on the paperwork more than any other officer: Kyle Vanner. Thorne had tried to handle it through traditional channels. He sent internal affairs investigators to review the footage. But Vanner was slippery. He knew exactly where to stand to block the camera's view. He knew the magic words to shout to justify a search. "Stop resisting, he's reaching." Vanner knew how to manufacture a threat where none existed. Without concrete proof, the police union lawyers defended him, and the complaints were sustained as unfounded. Thorne grew tired of reading reports. He realized that to catch a predator who hides behind a badge, you cannot hunt him from an office chair. You have to become the prey. The plan was audacious. It was dangerous. If it went wrong, Thorne could end up shot by one of his own men. But the integrity of his department was at stake. Thorne spent 10 weeks preparing. He didn't just borrow a car. He created a life. He registered as a driver for a rideshare app under his middle name, Anthony. He purchased a 2016 sedan with a dented bumper and a slightly noisy muffler. He stopped shaving his head and let his graying hair grow out in patchy tufts. He grew a beard that was scruffy and unkempt. He studied the geography of the 6th District. He learned Vanner's patrol patterns. He knew that on Friday and Saturday nights, Vanner liked to sit near the underpass on Claiborne, waiting for people coming home from late shifts or leaving local bars. Vanner targeted older cars. He targeted solitary drivers. He targeted skin color. Thorne enlisted only 2 confidants, his deputy superintendent, Sarah Jenkins, and the head of the Public Integrity Bureau, Captain David Ross. They wired the silver sedan with 4 hidden 4K cameras and high-fidelity microphones. They were concealed in the air vents, the rearview mirror, and the dome light. Thorne also wore a strict wire recording device taped to his chest beneath his undershirt. For 3 weeks, Thorne actually drove the car. He picked up passengers. He delivered food. He wanted the car to look lived in, filled with fast food wrappers and empty coffee cups. He adopted a persona, a weary, soft-spoken man just trying to make rent. On a sultry Friday night in August, Thorne initiated the operation. The air was thick with humidity and the drone of cicadas. He drove slowly down Claiborne Avenue, ensuring he was going exactly the speed limit. He signaled his turns 3 seconds in advance. He checked his mirrors. He spotted Vanner's cruiser idling in the shadows of the overpass. Thorne felt a spike of adrenaline that he hadn't felt since his days in narcotics. He drove past. Nothing. He circled the block and drove past again 10 minutes later. This time the headlights flared in his rearview mirror. Thorne watched as the cruiser pulled out aggressively, tailgating him for 2 blocks before the lights ignited. Thorne pulled over immediately, coming to a safe stop under a street lamp. He wanted the lighting to be perfect for the cameras. Officer Vanner exited his vehicle. He didn't walk with the caution of a public servant. He walked with the swagger of a warlord. He was young, fit, and clearly intoxicated by his own authority. He shone his flashlight directly into Thorne's side mirror, blinding him. Thorne rolled the window down halfway. "License, registration, and proof of insurance," Vanner barked. No greeting. No reason for the stop. "Good evening, officer," Thorne said, pitching his voice to sound tired and slightly nervous. "Can I ask why I'm being pulled over?" "I asked for your documents," Vanner snapped. "I didn't ask for a conversation. Do you have ears? Get the documents." "I'm getting them, sir. They're in the glove box. I just wanted to know. I stopped you because you swerved," Vanner lied smoothly. "You crossed the center line back there, and your tag light is out." Thorne knew both statements were false. The lane assist on the dashboard proved he hadn't swerved, and he had replaced the tag bulb that morning. "I didn't think I swerved, officer. I'm just driving for the app trying to get my rides in." "I smell alcohol," Vanner said. It was the oldest trick in the book. A smell cannot be recorded on video. It is the perfect fabrication to justify removing a driver from a car. Thorne hadn't had a drink in 12 years. "I don't drink, sir," Thorne said calmly, handing over his personal driver's license, the one that listed his address in a modest neighborhood, not his actual home. Vanner shone the light into Thorne's eyes, holding it there, trying to provoke a reaction. "Take the mask off." "I'm immunocompromised, officer. I wear it for my health when I have passengers." "There are no passengers in the car. Take it off. I need to verify your ID." Thorne slowly lowered the mask to his chin. The beard and the mechanic's cap obscured his features enough that Vanner, who had only seen the superintendent in formal dress uniform at distant podiums, saw only an old black man. Bias filled in the rest of the picture. Vanner looked at the license. "Marcus. Anthony. You got a record, Marcus?" "No, sir." "You look like you got a record. You look nervous. Why are your hands shaking?" Thorne's hands were perfectly still. "I'm not nervous, officer. I'm just cold. The AC is on high." "Step out of the car." "Officer, if this is a traffic stop, can I just get my ticket? I have a passenger waiting for a pickup." "I said get out of the car," Vanner yelled, his hand dropping to his holster. "Failure to comply is an arrestable offense. Get out now." Thorne unbuckled his seatbelt. He opened the door and stepped out, raising his hands slowly. He stood 5'11", significantly shorter than the 6'2" Vanner. Vanner spun him around and slammed him against the side of the sedan. "Spread your legs, wider." "Officer, I haven't consented to a search," Thorne said, citing the law he had helped write. "You have no probable cause to search my person." "I have probable cause because I say I do," Vanner whispered in his ear. "I smell weed now, too. You reek of it." Vanner patted him down aggressively, his hands searching rougher than necessary. He reached into Thorne's pockets and pulled out his phone and wallet, tossing them onto the hood of the car. Then Vanner left Thorne standing by the trunk and leaned into the open driver's side door. He began to toss the car. He ripped the glove box open, dumping the contents on the floorboard. He reached into the back seat and upended Thorne's gym bag. He threw a spare jacket onto the wet street. "Hey!" Thorne shouted. "That's my property. You don't have to throw it in the mud." Vanner stormed back to him. You want to go to jail for disorderly conduct? Keep running your mouth. I can find a reason to lock you up, old man. I can find anything I want." He found nothing illegal, no drugs, no guns, no open containers. This should have been the end of it. A warning, maybe a fake ticket and a release. But Vanner's ego was bruised because Thorne hadn't cowered. He hadn't begged. "Turn around," Vanner ordered. "Hands behind your back." "Am I under arrest?" Thorne asked. "For what charge?" "Resisting an officer, public intoxication, and, let's say, reckless driving." The cuffs clicked tight. Too tight. Thorne winced as Vanner shoved him toward the patrol car. "You people never learn," Vanner muttered as he opened the back door of the cruiser. "Always got a lawyer in your head. You think you know the law. I am the law out here. This is my street." Thorne sat in the back of the cage. The hard plastic seat was uncomfortable. The smell of stale vomit and disinfectant was overwhelming. Vanner got into the front seat and radioed dispatch. "One male in custody, transporting to central lockup." The drive to the precinct took 20 minutes. For those 20 minutes, Officer Vanner provided the evidence that would end his life as he knew it. He didn't know the superintendent was wearing a wire. He didn't know the recording was being streamed directly to Captain Ross at Internal Affairs. "You're going to lose that job of yours," Vanner said, glancing in the rearview mirror. "They don't let criminals drive for Uber. I'm going to make sure your car gets impounded too. Cost you a couple of $1,000 to get it out. Maybe next time you'll show some respect when an officer speaks to you." "I showed you respect," Thorne said from the back, his voice calm, studying the back of Vanner's head. "I followed every instruction." "You gave me attitude," Vanner scoffed. "I can't stand guys like you. Thinking you're equal. Thinking you own the place just because you bought a cheap car. I clean trash like you up every night." "Trash." Thorne closed his eyes. He thought of the thousands of good officers under his command, men and women of all races who risked their lives daily, who bought lunch for homeless kids, who de-escalated domestic disputes with compassion. And then there was this man, a bully with a badge, a liability. When they arrived at Central Lockup, the Sallyport was buzzing. It was a busy Friday. Vanner parked the car and hauled Thorne out. He gripped Thorne's bicep tightly, parading him toward the intake desk. They walked through the double doors. The intake area was bright-smelling of floor wax and coffee. The desk sergeant, a woman named Sergeant Miller, who had been on the force for 20 years, looked up from her computer. She saw Officer Vanner. Then she looked at the prisoner. She froze. Her eyes went wide. She stood up so quickly her chair rolled backward and hit the filing cabinet. "Officer Vanner," she stammered. Her face had gone pale. "Got a drunk driver, Sarge," Vanner said, tossing Thorne's ID on the high counter. "Resisting, reckless. Put him in a holding cell alone. I want him to think about his attitude." Sergeant Miller didn't touch the ID. She looked at the prisoner. "Sir," she whispered. Vanner looked confused. "Don't call him Sir Sarge. He's a perp." Thorne stood straight. He rolled his shoulders back. The posture of the tired Uber driver vanished, replaced by the commanding presence of a man who ran a department of 4,000 employees. "Officer Vanner," Thorne said. The voice was deep, resonant, and familiar. It was the voice from the academy graduation speeches. It was the voice from the daily briefings. "Remove these handcuffs," Thorne commanded. "Now!" Vanner laughed nervously. "You think you can give orders, you—" "I said," Thorne's voice boomed, echoing off the concrete walls, "remove these restraints immediately, huh?" Every officer in the room stopped. The silence was sudden and terrifying. Vanner looked around. He saw Sergeant Miller standing at attention. He saw two other officers slowly backing away. He looked back at the perp. Thorne looked at Sergeant Miller. "Sarge, if he won't do it, you do it." Miller scrambled around the desk. "Yes, Superintendent. Right away, Superintendent." Vanner's brain short-circuited. The word hung in the air. Superintendent. He watched in horror as Miller unlocked the cuffs. Thorne rubbed his wrists where deep red marks were visible. He reached up and pulled off the mechanic's cap. He pulled down the mask. Vanner stared at the face he had seen in the frame of the portrait hanging in the precinct lobby every single day for 5 years. "Oh my God," Vanner whispered. His knees actually buckled. He had to grab the counter to stay upright. Thorne turned to Vanner. The look in his eyes was not anger. It was absolute cold disappointment. "You have the right to remain silent." Thorne said softly. "And I suggest you use it. Captain Ross is waiting in Interrogation Room 1. He has the footage from my car, he has the audio from my wire, and he has the body camera footage you just created." "Chief, I didn't know it was you." Vanner stammered, sweat breaking out instantly on his forehead. "I thought I was just—" "You thought I was a nobody." Thorne cut him off. "You thought I was someone without power. You thought you could trample on my civil rights because you didn't think anyone would believe me over you. That is the problem, Vanner. It shouldn't matter who I am. It shouldn't matter if I'm the superintendent or a dishwasher. The rights are the same." Thorne stepped closer, leaning in so only Vanner could hear. "You called me trash. You said you clean up trash like me." Thorne pointed to the door. "Turn around. Captain Ross will take your badge and your weapon. You are relieved of duty effective immediately." Vanner walked to the interrogation room like a dead man walking. He knew it was over. The investigation was swift and merciless. Because it was the superintendent involved, the case bypassed the usual bureaucratic delays. The footage was undeniable. It showed Vanner lying about the swerving. It showed the illegal search. It captured the racial slurs and the verbal abuse during the transport. 3 days later, Superintendent Thorne held a press conference. He stood at the podium in his full dress uniform projected on screens across the nation. "Transparency is painful," Thorne began, "but it is necessary." He played the video. All of it. The unedited 20-minute encounter. The reporters gasped when Vanner threw the jacket in the mud. They shook their heads when the handcuffs went on. "I have terminated Officer Kyle Vanner's employment this morning," Thorne announced. "Furthermore, the district attorney is filing charges for deprivation of rights under color of law and filing a false police report. But this is not just about one bad apple. This is about the tree." Thorne announced a complete overhaul of the 6th District. He implemented a new policy requiring random audits of body camera footage by an independent civilian board. He announced that any officer found turning off their audio during a transport would face immediate suspension. The fallout for Vanner was total. He was not just fired, he was prosecuted. His defense lawyer tried to argue entrapment, claiming the superintendent had baited him. The judge threw that argument out immediately. "Entrapment, the judge ruled, is inducing someone to commit a crime they would not otherwise commit. Superintendent Thorne did not force you to conduct an illegal search. He did not force you to use racial slurs. You did those things because that is who you are." Vanner was convicted of civil rights violations. He was sentenced to 30 months in federal prison. He lost his pension. He lost his right to own a firearm. He lost his voting rights. The last time he was seen in public, he was working under the table as a laborer on a construction site 2 counties over a man broken by his own arrogance. Superintendent Thorne continued to lead the department for another 4 years. He kept the mechanic's cap on a shelf in his office as a reminder of what it felt like to be powerless, a reminder of who he truly worked for. The taxi, the beat-up silver sedan, was never sold. It was used in the training academy. Every rookie cadet had to sit in that car and watch the footage before they were allowed to pin on a badge. The valuable lesson. This story illustrates a critical truth about power. Character is revealed not by how we treat our superiors, but by how we treat those we believe can do nothing for us. Officer Vanner's fatal mistake wasn't just that he pulled over the wrong person. It was that he believed his badge gave him the right to strip dignity from another human being. He confused authority with superiority. For the audience, the lesson is twofold. For those in power, you are being watched even when you think you are safe. True integrity is doing the right thing when no one is looking. For the citizens, knowledge is your armor. In the story, Thorne remained calm because he knew the law, and he knew he was documenting the truth. If you find yourself in an unjust situation, prioritize your safety, but document everything. Names, badge numbers, times, and locations. In the modern world, the camera is the great equalizer. As Thorne proved, the truth, when captured clearly, is the one thing that lies and corruption cannot defeat.